It's Saturday, June 21st, 2025. Day 8 of Rhythm and Rides 25. After 2 scorching days and overnight rains at the BMW Rally in Tennessee, I zipped up my tent, packed up my wet camping gear, and pointed the bike northeast, heading home. 3 days, just over 900 miles, and some of the hottest riding I've ever done. This is Rhythm and Rides 25, a 5-video series chronicling my 10-day, 2,066-mile ride from New York City to the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America National Rally in Lebanon, Tennessee. From the twisties in a sudden Appalachian rainstorm to sweepers on sweltering highways, it's about the roads, the people, and the joy of two-wheeled exploration. If you like traveling the back roads, or even just dreaming about it, take a second to like and subscribe. Your support keeps me going and helps share the adventure with more people. This morning started early. Packing a wet tent is never fun, but I managed to get it all rolled up and lashed down before the sun got too high. The route that day took me through the green heart of Kentucky: Scottsville, Glasgow, Columbia, Somerset, Mount Vernon, each town separated by stretches of farmland and some tree-lined roads, and that slow, gentle rise and fall that makes Kentucky so fun to ride. I cut east through Richmond and Winchester, and then up through Canova, crossing into West Virginia. I saw a few other riders here and there, spreading out and heading our separate ways home. Hopefully we'll meet again next year in Vermont. By the time I rolled into Hurricane, West Virginia, I'd ridden 364 miles in what felt like a convection oven. I checked into the Holiday Inn Express at Tees Valley, and my free room upgrade got me plenty of space to unpack and dry my tent and my other wet camping gear. I walked across the street to Applebee's, nothing fancy, but after a long, hot ride, that cold beer was one of the best I ever had. Day 9. Tees Valley, West Virginia to Allentown, Pennsylvania. If yesterday felt like a convection oven, today was a blast furnace. 466 miles and 6 interstate highways. From 64 to 79 to 68 to 70 to 81 and 78. It was all highway. At one point, stuck in a brief traffic jam, the dash thermometer read 105 degrees. Inside the Holland Tunnel the next day, it would hit 109, and that's the hottest I've ever ridden it. I'm an at-gat rider. That means all the gear, all the time. And while the protection is great, it also traps the heat. So I was actually really glad that I had picked up the Thirsty Rock hydration pack and LD Comfort base layers for hot riding at the rally. Neither are sponsors, I paid full price, but I would recommend them both to anyone riding in this kind of heat. I knew I wanted to get home on Monday, and the further I could go today, the earlier I'd get home tomorrow. I kept telling myself, I'll make it to Hagerstown and see how I feel. Then, I'll make it to Harrisburg. Then, I'll make it to Reading. And finally, I'll make it to Allentown. In Allentown, I was done. I was tired, but well before the point where you start making careless decisions. And you never want to get to that point on a motorcycle. I checked into the Holiday Inn Express and didn't even bother going out for dinner. I had a few granola bars, drank lots of water, and went to sleep. I needed all three. Day 10. Allentown, Pennsylvania, to New York City, and home. This is the final stretch, just 2 hours. It's Monday morning, so I timed my ride to avoid most of the commuter traffic. And I was pretty lucky, even at the Holland Tunnel. It was all Route 78, and it took me back east through the towns I grew up in. Bernardsville, the Watchung Mountains, places full of memories. It was a strange mix of making time and reflection. The sun was bright, the miles ticked by, and I knew all the landmarks. Some would say that the Holland Tunnel isn't the most scenic end to a ride. But crossing a bridge or tunnel into New York City is always, for me, about being home. When you live in the city, it's easy to forget you're on an island. It's when you leave and you come back that you realize how these natural barriers made building up the only option. And the skyline, it's like an ever-changing welcome home sign. So that's it. Rhythm and Rides 25. 10 days, 2,066 miles. 5 states, and 1 unforgettable journey. From the rain-soaked forests of West Virginia to famous roads like the Talon and the Dragon Slayer. To stretches of highway and back roads with no names, but plenty of beauty. This trip had everything. And it threw me some pretty extreme weather. But I made it through. I'd love to explore more of the John Henry legend in Talcott, West Virginia. I'd love to ride the Talon again in better weather. I'd like to finally make it down to the river and hike in New River Gorge National Park. I'd like to see the Monongahela National Forest on a sunny day. I'd like to go back to Red River Gorge and Bardstown with more time to explore. And there are journeys ahead I'd like to take. Exploring Newfoundland and Labrador and Prince Edward Island in Canada, revisiting the Catskills and the Adirondacks and the Finger Lakes in my home state of New York. And one day, riding through Spain or Portugal or France or Italy or all of them. And of course, I'll be at next year's BMW Rally in Vermont. When you ride out west, the distances are vast, and the landscapes are dramatic, the skies are big, and the mountains feel like giants. In the east, everything's more compact. You crisscross rivers and creeks, and the twisties are just as tight, but small towns are dozens of miles apart instead of hundreds. The forests are dense and lush and green, and full of a very different kind of majesty. But wherever you ride, and whatever you ride, if you ride enough, it changes you. It slows you down, and you stop thinking about the next curve. Instead, you're immersed in the curve you're in. That feeling, some call it flow, is what gets under my skin. It's what keeps me riding. Thanks for watching. Until the next ride, be safe, be curious, and keep meandering.